I travel back and forth between states to help care for our elderly mother. She's living with my older brother now, so we share the responsibility as best we can. In many ways, we're lucky. We're still close. We still talk. When something needs to be done, we try to step up for each other. But that doesn't mean it's easy. My brother and I are polar opposites in a lot of ways. And until recently, we'd never really lived together as adults. Not since junior high. For more than 60 years, we built separate lives, separate routines, habits, expectations, and ways of moving through the world. Now, suddenly, we're under the same roof for a month or two at a time. Two fully grown adults, two very different lifestyles, one shared responsibility. Some days go smoothly, other days feel awkward, confining, uncomfortable in ways that are hard to explain unless you've lived it. Small habits start to stand out. Things that never mattered before suddenly do. Sometimes we get on each other's nerves. Sometimes we get upset. Sometimes we talk it out. Sometimes we let it go without saying anything. And in the middle of all that, we're learning new things about each other. Things we never had to learn when we lived apart. Some of those discoveries bring us closer. Others remind us just how much time has passed and how much we've both changed. That's when it really hit me. Sibling relationships don't stay frozen in childhood. They evolve, and often they change in ways we don't expect. When we're young, our roles feel simple. Older sibling, younger sibling, the responsible one, the easygoing one, the one who adapts, the one who pushes back. Those roles form early, and for a long time, they don't feel unfair, they feel normal. You grow into them without realizing it. But as the years pass, those same roles can start to feel heavier. What that once felt like, this is just how our family works, slowly becomes something else. It takes decades to notice, and even longer to question. By the time you do, those patterns are deeply ingrained. As adults, we bring our full lives into the relationship. Careers, losses, health issues, long-held beliefs about how things should be done. And when siblings come back into close proximity later in life, especially under stress, those old roles don't disappear. They collide with who we've become. The older sibling may still feel responsible for decisions. The younger one may still feel pressure to adjust. Or the dynamic may flip in unexpected ways. What worked in childhood doesn't always work in your 60s. Caring for an aging parent brings that reality into sharp focus. Caregiving isn't just about schedules or medical appointments. It's emotional. It's exhausting in ways people don't always talk about. There's very little space to step away, very little room to reset. You're tired, worried, and still expected to be patient. And when siblings are involved, caregiving can quietly expose old imbalances. Who rearranges their life? Who absorbs the stress? Who is expected to understand? It doesn't usually happen out of cruelty. It happens out of habit. In our case, we're learning as we go. We don't always agree, but we both show up. And that matters more than doing everything perfectly. But I've come to understand that this isn't true for everyone. For many siblings, time doesn't soften old patterns, it hardens them. The one who carried more responsibility early on often carries it again later. The one who stayed distant before may stay distant still. And the imbalance that was tolerable when life was busy becomes harder to ignore when energy is limited. That's where things begin to shift. Not in one big argument, not in a dramatic fallout, but in a slow accumulation of moments. Who answers the phone? Who makes the trip? Who adapts? Who absorbs? Over time, some siblings grow closer through this. They learn patience. They develop respect for each other's limits. They find a new kind of partnership that didn't exist before. Others grow apart, not because they stopped caring, but because the effort was never shared evenly. That realization often arrives later in life, when time feels more precious and tolerance for constant tension wears thin. When you start paying attention, not just to how you spend your money, but how you spend your energy. Guilt plays a role here, and guilt is powerful. It keeps people in patterns long after they've stopped being healthy. But guilt doesn't always mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it just means you're breaking a role you were taught to play a long time ago. I've learned that distance between siblings doesn't always mean estrangement. Sometimes it's adjustment. Sometimes it's clarity. Sometimes it's the only way to preserve peace without resentment. Living together again, even temporarily, can bring friction, but it can also bring understanding. You see the person your sibling became, not just the one you remember, and that can be both comforting and challenging. There are moments of tension. There are moments of grace. There are days when the house feels heavy, and days when it feels cooperative and calm. What matters is the willingness to adapt. But not all sibling relationships have that flexibility. Some remain locked in old expectations. Some rely on guilt instead of communication. Some confuse obligation with connection. And over time, that wears people down. I've come to believe the healthiest sibling relationships later in life are the ones that allow room for difference. Different habits, different temperaments, different ways of coping, without keeping score. When that balance exists, the relationship can deepen in ways childhood never allowed. When it doesn't, distance sometimes becomes necessary. Aging parents have a way of bringing truth to the surface, not just about logistics, but about relationships themselves. They reveal who can bend, who can listen, and who can share the weight. They also reveal limits. Learning to respect those limits, your siblings and your own, is part of growing older with wisdom. Not every sibling relationship will look the same at 70 as it did at 17. And that isn't failure. It's reality. What matters is honesty. What matters is effort. What matters is knowing when to speak, when to let go, and when to protect your own peace. Because later in life, peace isn't selfish. It's necessary. If you're navigating sibling relationships while caring for aging parents, feeling both closeness and strain at the same time, I want you to know you're not alone. Many of us are walking this unfamiliar path, trying to do right by the people we love without losing ourselves along the way. If this resonated with you, thank you for spending your time here with me. Truly, these conversations matter, and so do the quiet experiences we don't always talk about. If you feel comfortable, share your story in the comments. Not to explain or justify, just to be heard. And if you're still figuring things out, that's okay too. There's no single right way to navigate family, only an honest one. I appreciate you being here, listening and reflecting with me. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.